My youngsters were clapping hands and laughing. Honorable Pashos Banda, if you know Pashos Banda, he has his story. The story is written in the history of Zimbabwean politics, where the biblical David slew Goliath with a string and a stone. That happened in Cowdrey Park. And I also want to take my hats off to all the youth of former Triple C, both in Harare, province of Harare, the nation, and province of Bulawayo, as I would want to take my hats off for all the youth in or from former Triple C around the country. We had a program was to go all out with the youth. I also want to pay tribute to Honorable Jameson Timber, a very brave cadre and astute politician whose only crime was to sit down with the youth. After sitting down, they were supposed to go back home after having met their father. But for that, just that open meeting was criminalized. I remember very well I was supposed to be addressing the youth myself in Waterfalls. But violence started whilst I joined youth leaders in town. I took Mazbaba Shanduko, we came home, and as we were setting foot home, then we heard all our youth had been rounded up. I preferred and I suggested I should go and talk to the police, but the youth restrained me. A few hours later, I was informed of the arrest of Honorable Senator Jameson Timber, a politician of great repute. But as these innocent souls got arrested, I was shocked by the deafening silence of the Zimbabwean people. Someone was saying that we are so educated, but I doubt. If we are educated, then we lack common sense. We lack common sense, and this happens so many times. I see so many tweets, but we can't do. This is why we want to encourage people to take their own rightful place and take power. They started coming tomorrow, and there's still some deafening silence. We started it a long time ago. I saw my friends being picked up. I saw ourselves being infiltrated. You remember another hero of current struggle, our pastor, our bishop, our intercessor, Bishop Nyamakanga. I was reading his chat sheet. When we came back to town, I was with a few youth leaders. We came back to my house. I phoned the bishop. In fact, I phoned the bishop before because myself and the bishop were going to address the youth just to encourage them. It was just a commemoration of the Sharpeville massacre, which is an international day recognized by all SADC. Bishop Nyamakanga, I remember we talked about what we were going to talk, what we were going to say. Apparently, Bishop was going to give a prayer. If he gave a prayer, I was going to talk. There was no Senator Timber. There was no Honorable Timber involved. All that Senator Timber did was probably planning, maybe as he was, planning maybe to have a barbecue lunch or something with the youth. And the regime that has taken over the powers of Zimbabweans pounced on them. They also later on pounced on the bishop. I read his charge sheet. It pains me. It pained me so much. that the bishop was picked up for a crime that is purported to have been perpetrated at Senator Timber's place. The bishop didn't know, had never met Senator Timber, but the charge sheet, which I still have today, said that he was planning a demo. He was planning a protest with Senator Timber. That is the charge sheet. And when on that day, he never left his house. He would have never left his house, because if anyone, it's me who left his house, but never participated in any protest. Came back home, talked to Bishop. Bishop was picked later on, and the nation is silent. The nation of over 89% literate rate is silent. This is why we come today to this space to encourage all Zimbabweans that the Constitution allows us to protest. If you do not want to protest, just walk by. If you do not want to shout, just pray. That was our initial plan back then in February, March. It was all to do with very, very, very peaceful protest. The other day I was listening, the president was boasting. The boast was that he is a constitutionalist. But I allow it with that late development. And if you add an element of dementia, maybe also another little disease of schizophrenic, the president forgets that he's a constitutionalist. If he was, as he purports, then there's no reason he can keep all the people, about 200 people that are behind bars for planning protest, which they never did. It disheartens me. We went, myself and Comrade Ostalos, or Champion Ostalos Siziba, Honorable Siziba, if you know him. We went in to conscientize students. I remember we went in to talk to students in Pintura. At no point did any one of us mention a protest or anything. But you know what? We respect as Zimbabweans, because this is contained in our own constitution. His crime was to by the way, all my friends, all my colleagues, including myself, were all in hiding. Why? Because power has been taken from us. Power to the people. Power is now in the executive. And power is not even in the executive, but in a small clique. It is unimaginable for a state to bring itself into such embarrassment where they take this huge human goose or hamangas to meet William Ruto, to meet Yoweri Museveni, to meet this lady who they just gave 500,000 US dollars to endorse or come to SADC, the lady from Tanzania. He meets them as who? And he is on red carpet. Someone flies that fat mess all around Zimbabwe. And he actually goes on or is accepted and received in the ZANU-PF community as the de facto vice president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. If that is not a laughing stock, I don't know what it is. The Zimbabwe state has been contested since, and for the past 4 decades, there's been contestation of the Zimbabwe state. And Zimbabweans will just keep on going. I don't know what it takes to support ZANU-PF. It probably wants, or it takes high level of intoxication for anyone to accept what ZANU-PF does. It is not the topic of today, but ladies and gentlemen, just look at this one. If you travel as I do to look at what progress is taking place on the ground, I've been to Kariba. I counted, and for those that are not in the know, Kariba has got, or is, the biggest man-made lake in the world. It provides the two nations of Zimbabwe and Zambia with electricity. And it is also a major tourist attraction center. It connects us to Zambia. And the roads from Harare to Kariba are so significant in that it provides a link to the DRC in Zambia. On the night, I counted 300 trucks. But if you get there today, ladies and gentlemen, you cry. If you've never read Cry the Beloved Country novel, you don't need to do so, just to drive that side. And the other day we had a rally, Pani, and I went in the company of Honorable Tobacco Spanda and other honorables that are listed here, including my sister Tendai Masocha. Dear Lord, there's a proper jungle on your way to Vic Falls. The regime does not care. This is why we are saying now we need to take power into our own hands as Zimbabweans, because we are affected in every manner and way in our lives. Needless to say, Victoria Falls is one of the seven wonders of the world. But I'll tell you, whether it is tribalism, which I think it is, or hate, which I think it is, or ignorance, which I think it is, or a lack of leadership, which I know is, our country is in a total state of decay. I've seen ZANU-PF Zilouts, ZANU-PF Mujahideen, ZANU-PF small little Hitlers, ZANU-PF small little Mussolini, Benito Mussolini's. They jump around, they talk of a boulevard, some small little road that they constructed from or for head of state. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take back our power. We need to get our, it doesn't matter where you are. There's a way you can contribute for this fight. There's a way you can contribute to fight this tyrant. These are not dictators. These are human eaters. They've just gone beyond dictatorship to tyrant. They don't care. You beat up your citizen and you say that this guy painted his buttocks. What type of leadership are they? They are senile. ED is food. You know what? His birth certificate might be written other. But when he went to war and came back, that guy is around 90. Where is he leading us? And there are people who would say ED 2030. They need mental examination. Where is he leading us? ED is leading us to Glen Forest. ED is leading us Kumbuzi, to the graves. And you see some youth jumping around. Let me tell you the price of building this road that they've paraded on social media as if it was taken from heaven to Zimbabwe. For that, they have stopped construction of the road from Norton to Bulawayo, dualization of that road. It stopped completely for them to be able to construct that 12-kilometer road. They've also stopped dualization of the road to Mtare. Right now, I was just reading the newspaper. It pains me to hear that there was something like 15 people that perished in an accident. Year in, year out, these things happen. If you go back to the road going to Masvingo, it's in a state of decay. And for this that they are talking about, The lead road construction company is a relative of the president. That's fossil construction. And yet Zimbabweans don't say anything. We need to reset and get back our power. The reason why would ever dig at leaders that are coming for this summit is that it's a laughing stock. These people are an embarrassment to the human race. They have got their own constituted secretariat that drew people from various nations within the SADC and advised and took them, mandated them to supervise elections in Zimbabwe. They came out with reports. This is where I say at times people in Africa or at times people in SADC lack common sense. These men and women wrote a report, took them back to their principals. Principals signed the report and they set a criteria to be followed by each member state. And on marking, probably using a red pen, correct, wrong, correct, wrong, they were marking against 20 set criteria. Even a celebrated dunderhead in the form of a head of state would have understood what they meant. Out of 20, Zimbabwe failed 17. And your IQ should be minus 30, not to understand what it means. A minus 30 IQ would make people come to sit and hold the meetings that they are holding today. The meetings that they are holding today, and I can tell you that all those that are attending without any noise, probably except a few people like HH, these people would have received something from this regime. It doesn't surprise me if they can brazenly forget that they want to promote tourism. Government has no business being in business. If you hear me out again, government has no business being in business. Our own government is always at the forefront competing with business. And how do you attract FDI? How do you attract foreign direct investment? How do you attract DDI? DDI is diaspora direct investment. You can't, because you're competing with your own citizens. We are the government. We are competing with ourselves. Why? Because we do not have leadership. This is why we now need to come to the fore and grab our own leadership starting tomorrow. These guys built 14 or whatever villas. There is Sheraton, you call it Rainbow Towers. There is Monamutapa, you call it Crown Plaza. No, I'm not generary. I only said Crown Plaza because I also want you to get the other side. So there is Ambassador Hotel. There is Crystal Oasis, Holiday Inn, N1 Hotel. There is Jameson Hotel. We have enough accommodation for dignitaries, and that way we could have had a lot of business taking place in the hotels. But what does government do? They jump in. They want to. I don't believe they were trying to build villas. They were trying to loot through villas. If you look at the profile of who built when, what, who was taken from where, and then you quickly remember the gold mafia. But that's not the topic for discussion today. It's a topic for another day. But I am saying government takes over business from the private sector. It gets into central government. But look at all parastatals. For all the parastatals that are performing, they have been put into Mutapa Fund. Mutapa Fund, which is an opaque organization. and they've got the villas. What do they use the villas for? Your guess is as good as mine. And it's damn true. They are competing to have brothels. Take our own kids, hide them there, impregnate them. And you hear somebody saying ED 2030, passing on HIV to our own kids. And we do not want to take power to ourselves? What's the purpose of building hotels? What's the purpose of building villas when we have enough accommodation space for everyone? We've never built any single extra accommodation when there is trade fair in Bulawayo. We do it here. We don't have leadership. We do not have leadership whatsoever. How do they pay those people, even including the thank you to the parliament? It is through the looting of our minerals. I'm a miner myself, and I know what is going on. It bleeds my heart. The Chinese come here with virtually nothing. How many in your own areas have you had a mineral called element called antimony? The Chinese are not exporting. They are putting it together with chrome. If you go to places like Kwekomberengwa, if you go on to some places, they are Chinese. But you go back to MMCZ, not even a single export has been done since April, since March. They've not exported anything. Where are those minerals going? The Chinese. And how are they doing it? If you heard Comrade BT talking about illicit financial flows, that's what's happening. A China man has money here, 1 million, that he has gotten in Zimbabwe. Another China man comes from China. They will say, I need antimony or gold. They sell, they buy cash. This Chinaman who was here gives cash to there because he had 10 million that he wanted to take to China. The company in China will use his cash to buy our minerals, and then the guy is paid in China by a company that is supposed to. So there's nothing that has been benefit, or there's nothing that has been benefited or taken to Zimbabwe. There is wide scale looting. Never mind the entrepreneurs. And people will sit back, sit on their rollers, and rejoice. We can't do that. We're saying power to the people. Amandla Ngawethu Masimba edu. The chairmanship that ZANU-PF zealots are actually jumping, but they're jumping around in streets like mad people of Gatari. The chairmanship is not for an individual. The chairmanship is held collectively with citizens. Every citizen. We don't need to have ED to get the chairmanship. We need Zimbabwe to exist to have the chairmanship. And if we feel that ED is not the right person to receive it on our behalf, surely we should stop that. And that's what we mean when we say power to the people. In any case, we are allowed by our constitution to do what we want to do. It is the constitution that says that. And I do not understand how we keep on these gerontocracies in power, these octogenarians in power. Power should be given back to the people. It is high time we claim our position as the owners of this land. We don't owe anyone anything in any form. If anything, if someone is not subservient to the constitution of Zimbabwe or to what we want, then that person should be removed. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do as Zimbabweans. How do we contribute? I am a diasporan myself, but I thought Writing it in papers or on tweet or on chat won't give back Zimbabwe. I hear a lot of stories by diasporians, but I'll tell you what, you need to be home. Yes, during times like this, I'm not fleeing. I'm not fleeing, no. But at times I take rest to get to shout from where I think is safer than where I was. This is what we did. But we're back home. Shortly after the SADC summit, we're back home. We're trying to look at other ways of forcing the regime to give power to the people. It is our right. It is our constitutional right. Most of the things that we are doing, we do not need to apologize. We have no reason to apologize. We do not need to beg, but we cannot let Wicknell Chivayo take everything, other everything that my child is supposed to eat. We cannot, we have to stop the Chinese. The Chinese will actually debone our country. It will eat us, or they will eat us to the bone marrow. We should stop. This is a this is just something we need to stop looting. I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the scale of looting is endemic in Zimbabwe. You will not believe that 50 years ago, or no, 60 years ago, when Ghana got in its independence, Dubai also was coming up, got it their independence. Dubai had not found oil, but Ghana had its minerals. And Ghana, instead, you know what? The United Arab Emirates power rests with the sheikh who lives in Abu Dhabi. Sheikh Abdullah, whatever, you can pronounce better than I do. The guy controls almost everything, including the Emirates, the railway, the Metropen, Polytech, but I'll tell you what, it is for the benefit of all Zimbabweans. There's something deeply wrong if we are all to sit, stand, and stare as the country turns into an entity under a dynasty. If you went to Dubai today, you'd probably sit in the streets and have a meal nicely. Nothing. We could do it with Zimbabwe. I don't know whether you remember or you know that the railway signal or signaling system was invented by Rhodesians. We have invented magoch-goch, Nema hideouts. If you go right around the country, I mean the world, Zimbabweans are revered. They are held with great esteem. We've got sound managers. Gentlemen, there's no place like home. There is no place like home. Having been a diasporan myself, I am still a diasporan because I'm 24 years in the UK. I'm right now, as I speak, in the UK because I also have my stay in the UK. But that's not enough. Let's get back home when elections come in. Let's get back. The only support we can give to our people, the only way we can restore power and get power out of these octogenarians, out of these very useless, outfit called ZANU-PF, is by us voting them out. We have to be on the ground. I wish one day we realize that we own this country or we own Zimbabwe in the same way that Emerson Mnangagwa does this country. Some people think he has or he owns. And I'm actually speaking to soldiers that are on this platform. How do you feel? Beating your own father. You're beating up an 80-year-old. You're beating up a 90-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old. What are you trying to achieve? Let's shift the power and let's collectively push for the independence of our country. We're not independent in Zimbabwe. No, we're not. We need to get back our country. If you're a soldier, it doesn't make any sense. People are laughing at you. You're beating up one patient, you're beating up people, and then the next thing you're going back home eating chunks. The next thing you're on the road flagging a lift to go to work. Shame on you. Shame on you. Read the doctrine of Pan-Africanism. If you don't know that every Zimbabwean is your relative, every Zimbabwean is one of you. All around the world, if there are no people that are united as Zimbabweans, I see people being bent nematires in South Africa, and some other Zimbabweans are looking on, pretending to be locals of South Africa. They don't denounce, they don't say anything about it. I go into the streets of Harare. I hear that the regime has rounded up people. Vatorwa nemasoja, vatorwa nemapurisa, svanana zvedu zvatakazvara, and vari kuvarova uri kutrai kuita sei? Wake up. These countries are ours. Hakusisina, my ex-combatants. And I'll tell you, there is no more ex-combatants around here. This regime murdered them all. Vakafa. They were denied access to free health. They were denied access to, even if they are told to go free to hospital, there is no medication. There are no personnel working in there. They are going there to die. It is a deathbed. And you can't see it. You don't feel it. Let's restore ourselves. We need to claim our country back. I do not want to take, I think I've taken so much time. I'd like to leave it to my brother, Prince Dubekos Banda, but I also want to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. I am going to be fighting here. And I'll tell you the truth that the youth were with me. They actually were supposed to be with me all throughout the day on the day. We all need to do that. We all need to come on the ground. If you can now, it's okay. Come elections, 2028. And I can tell you before I leave that the most genius person that I salute and respect is Nelson Chamisa. When he indeed said that the party had been contaminated, he meant it. And I did, and I do, and indeed, I support his ambiguous strategy. It works, but it needs explanation. It needs people to understand it. There was no time to transition from MDCA to Triple C, but that was a genius, brilliant idea. And the best idea was for him to quit so that everyone can see where there are problems. We mend them. We get into 2028 with a new mind, a fresh mind, a fresh strategy. Chamisa could not have just continued as it were, like some people would want to castigate it. Simba nderedu, nyika ndeyedu, tisu vanhu vacho. Isi abantu vankona, Amandla Ngawethu, sifune sonke kuti sibambane sihambe phambili. Hamsati manzwa kunaka kunoita Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe yedu inogona kuti lift up from where we are. Tiri marombe, vanhu vanosekwa pasi rino. Asi tinogona kuzvilifta neZimbabwe yedu because we've got everything that we want in this country. Believe you me, I have seen it myself. I have tried it myself. It has worked. And they will never, and they can kill for that. They can kill kuti usazvinzwe. Uite ugare ku England uchicleana machembere. They love that. This 2028. Chamisa, a genius. Ingozvi accept chete kuti Chamisa is a genius in that. atipa hasha semazimbabweans, atipa nguva yekuti ticlaim. He is not crowding the space, but atipa nguva yekuti isu tireflect, tintrospect, tione kuti toenderera mberi sei. If he says the party is contaminated, that's true. Taienda mu 2028, there's nothing that we would ever. Do you know what? I actually am so grateful. Look at what is happening. This afternoon, I was attending some space here and there, and I've never seen ever Zimbabweans communicating as much as they are communicating today. We need to come up with something. We now should all work for the alternative. We now need to work for the alternative, and we need to profile some very superior strategies. And I'll tell you what, ZANU-PF without ANC will never stand in 2028 elections, but it was going to stand if Chamisa had not resigned. Hats off to that young man. Hats off to Advocate Nelson Chamisa. Hats off to his leadership. Ngatimbatsirei gentlemen. Masimba ndedu, we need a leader tonight. A leader retested and tried tinaye musazonzwe vamwe vanhu vachiti zvakati. No, hakusi kumuda. No, kuziya chokwadi kwandiri kuita. Hakusi kunyanya kumuda. Neniwo ndingaringedei kuita a leader, but we've got a leader. We were given time to introspect as a nation. Now we know kuti Masimba ndedu isu vanhu. We never used to do that because there were some other zealots vakasara parliament vachijamba variko vachima constituents, but my constituencies ava edu isu vana veZimbabwe. Let us now come together, let us unite, let us go and get what is ours from ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF haina entitlement to this, not at all. And it has happened in quite a number of countries. Malawi kwakanga kuina banda aiti achiburuka ndege vanhu vese vairara pasi. Where is he today? How many leaders have changed in Malawi? Zambia the same. Kwaka kuina kaunda ifamba ine kamuswe kudaro achidai. Where is he today? Wasiya. Mozambique, vane internal democracy within the party. Yabo. South Africa, they've done the same as well. Have you seen how humble President Ruto is? He submits himself. He accepts that he is the servant. In our case, Mnangagwa ndiye master, isu tisu ma-servants. Tisu tinofanirwa kuuya nezvinhu zvekumupa kuti aendese, aise ma-de facto vice presidents. Kana paine munhu wa-president Chiwenga, or rather vice president Chiwenga na Mohadi zangu is a dead man walking. I can't talk about him. Asi kana paine vanhu vaChiwenga, rise and shine. Rise aimushine imomo muZANU-PF. Decide chimdzvanyiriri ichi and be counted as Zimbabweans. Don't just sit back. My generals ese apera, because you know they number up to 57 kubva papina Mnangagwa vachingofa chete. Short illness is takanyarara. Thank you very much, presenter. Thank you very much, convener. Let me leave for others. Thank you so much.